getting started in the gym to being super overweight to being in the best shape of my life. I was capable of doing it, and I am no different from you. It took me years of constant effort in order to get there, but I was able to do it, and you can do the same thing. It's visualization, consistency with the diet, but then it also comes down to consistency with the training. Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I just finished my morning workout, leg day on the menu today. It is 8 a.m. right now and I'm about to head home, have my breakfast and then get to work. But before I do, I wanted to cover something very important. It was just on my mind during the workout, and I'm going to be talking about what it truly takes to reach your dream physique. So, about 5 years ago is when I started taking lifting seriously. That's when I really got into, nutrition and training and all the science behind it. And I had been working out for like 2 to 3 years before that, but I was mainly focused on playing basketball, and I was just doing squats and all that to help with my vertical at the end of the day, to get, to become a better athlete, you could say. But ever since I started taking lifting more serious, I had this picture in my mind of what I want my body, what I want my physique to look like, right? I was following those people like David Late, Lex Little, James English, and looking at their physiques. This was something I was trying to do with my own body, but as you could imagine, 5 years ago, I looked nothing like that. I was just getting started. I was just getting over my weed addiction, and coming into the gym and actually applying the nutrition and the training the right way to myself, I started seeing some progress. And then over time, I just stayed consistent. I made more progress. And all of a sudden, I was able to really transform my body and become the person that I am right now. And the most important thing for me in order to do that was to visualize that physique in my head, to visualize the version of myself that I could be, the way I could look if I constantly put in the work, if I do the stuff right, if I take care of my nutrition, if I take care of my recovery, my sleep, and then also my training. So that's one point, visualization. You have to have a clear image in your head of what you want your body to look like, because if you can't even see it, you will never accomplish it. You have to have that picture in your mind. You have to have a goal in mind as well, right? If you're overweight right now, let's say you're 270, 280, you have to have a set goal in mind. You have to think to yourself, okay, what would I look like if I lost 60 pounds? What would I look like if I lost 70 pounds right now? And if you can't imagine it, you won't be able to do it, trust me. But if you can really, put that picture in your mind of what your physique would actually look like, losing all that weight, getting rid of all of that fat, having six-pack abs, having actual visible muscles, this is going to make a huge difference, because as soon as you start to visualize, it's going to be way easier for you to stay consistent as well. And that's point number 2, consistency. You have to stay consistent. You have to constantly do the stuff that gets you closer to the goal. So in that case, it would be in a calorie deficit, right? You have to eat less calories that you burn in a day. So that creates, this void of calories that's going to be burned off in body fat. So you have to be in that calorie deficit in order to lose body fat over time. That's one thing that you have to do if you want to get in shape and lose weight. So be consistent with that. The calorie deficit, it comes from the right nutrition. You have to work with either a calorie tracking app or set meal plans where you have an overview of all the calories that you're going to eat in a day. So you have to be consistent with the calorie deficit. You also have to be super consistent with your protein intake. You should be eating at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, because that ensures that while you are losing fat, you're actually not losing any muscle mass. You might actually be able to build muscle mass in the process, because at the very beginning, your body is capable of using a lot of your body fat as an energy source. So you're not going to burn any muscle. And even while being in a calorie deficit, you can build muscle if you do it the right way. So that's 2 things, right, when it comes to consistency. constantly be in a calorie deficit, so consume less calories than you burn in a day, and at the same time consume enough protein. And there's way more stuff that you have to take into consideration, like the foods that you eat and how often you eat in a day, but that's too much for me to cover right now. You can always shoot me a DM and ask me about that, and I will get back to you, I promise. So what we have right now is visualization, consistency with the diet, but then it also comes down to consistency with the training. You have to show up to the gym at least 4 times a week. I would say 5 times is even better, and you have to have the right workout structure. You can't just go into the gym and do whatever you feel like on that day, right? When you go into the gym, you have to come in with a set workout program where you can see which exercise I'm doing first, second, third, fourth, and so on. You also have to see how many sets you're doing per exercise, what the rep range is for that exercise, and you also have to track your progress week by week, because you can't just go to the gym and go in 1 week and then the next week you come in again and you don't even know what weights you used. You have to come in, track all the weights that you used, and then the next week you're going to come in, you're going to see, okay, I did, let's say, 135 pounds on the bench press for 6 reps. Now my goal is to get more reps out of that set. So your goal would be to get either 7 or 8 reps or 9 reps until you get to the top of a given rep range, which in that case could be 8. And then you're going to increase the weight in the next workout. You see where I'm getting at? You always have to chase progress at the gym. This principle is called progressive overload. And if you don't do that, you're not signaling your body that it needs to grow more muscle. You need to signal your body that it has to adapt. And you do that by training harder. So consistency in your training. You have to have a structured workout program. You have to track your progress, and you have to aim for progress from one workout to the next. And if you can do those 3 things continuously for weeks and months and years on end, your physique will turn into that version of yourself that you have visualized with the first step. But you have to do this. You have to combine the training with the nutrition, with the visualization. That's the first step, right? Visualization. That's the most important step, because if you don't have that goal in mind, if you don't have that certain goal in mind of what you could look like, you're not going to stay consistent, because there's going to be days where you don't feel like working out. There's going to be days where you don't feel like dieting, because the progress that you see isn't going to happen overnight. And sometimes you do get frustrated because maybe there aren't any visible changes after a week of training or 2 weeks of training or 3 weeks of training, and you won't reach your dream physique in months. It'll take years for you to get there. When I started out, I looked nothing like I do right now. And from this point on, I have realized that yes, I'm in good shape right now, right? But I can still accomplish way more. I can still look much better. And I'm already picturing that version of myself in my head, because that is what keeps me going. Whenever I don't want to show up to the gym, or whenever I don't feel like giving it everything I have in a certain set, I just remind myself of that version that I'm going to be if I just do the stuff, if I give it 100%, if I go for another rep, if I add more weight to the bar. And when you can do that, it gets so easy to stay consistent in the gym. It gets so easy to stay consistent with the diet as well, because in the back of your mind, you always know, okay, if I do this today, I will be rewarded for it in the future. And for a lot of you guys, it's just hard to find that starting point, because right now you might not be able to picture that version of yourself in your head, because as I said, you might be 270, you might be 280, you might be heavily overweight, and you just have all that fat, you have no muscle, and it's hard. Trust me, I've been there. I've been to the point where I was at 265 or something like that, looking bad, just looking like an absolute loser, eating junk food each and every day. But at some point I knew I had to change, and I knew what I had to do. So I set out a goal. I said I was going to lose 50 pounds within 6, 7 or 8 months, and I did. And I created the best version of myself that I've ever been. And the same thing applies to you. You just have to picture that version of yourself in your head, and if you can do that, it gets so much easier to follow through. And remember what I said, you have to take care of your nutrition, recovery, and training, and then you stay consistent, and then you can look like whatever you want. Basically, if you have the goal of competing in a bodybuilding competition, you can do that. If you have the goal of getting super shredded to the point where all your abs are visible and you have veins everywhere popping out, you can do that. It's all about staying consistent and doing the right things. And the same thing applies to my coaching as well, right? I'm only working with people who are capable of visualization, because if someone comes in and the person is like, yeah, you know, I just want to lose weight. Okay, cool, but do you actually know what that's going to look like for you? Do you actually have a picture of yourself in your mind of what that's going to do for you? Not just for yourself, but also for your social life and everyday life, like how you're going to carry yourself when you've lost that weight. So you got to come up with a more precise goal. Otherwise, I'm not even going to work with people. They have to have a set goal in mind. They have to come in and say, yes, I want to lose 50 pounds within the next 6 months, and I know how it's going to feel for me. I know what I'm going to look like, and I also know how much of a change it'll make in my everyday life. I'm going to be able to go on runs. I'll be able to go on hikes that are longer. I'm going to be able to ride the bike again. I'm going to be able to play with my kids more freely. You know, you have to have that picture in your mind, because otherwise it's going to be super hard to stay consistent with everything. And all the guys that I've coached that went from being overweight to being in the best shape of their lives, they came in and they had that picture in their mind. And if not, I had to help them create that picture first before we could even get started with the coaching, because that is the most important thing, that you really know what you want. If you know what you want, you can then go and get it. All you have to do after that is just execute the steps that are given out to you. But that is what it takes to reach your dream physique. First off, picturing that future version of yourself in your mind. Picture that dream physique in your mind. Consistency over years in the gym, with the nutrition, with the recovery, and then just constantly reminding yourself of that end goal that you have. And if you can do that, as I said, it's going to be so easy for you to stay on track. Once you realize that it's going to take time, that it's going to take effort, but that it's going to happen at some point, trust me, it will get so easy for you. And if you don't have a picture in your head right now, just sit down and think to yourself, how would I look like? How would I feel if I was in the best shape of my life? How would I look like if I lost 50 pounds? How would I feel if I lost 50 pounds? And then create that version of yourself, execute whatever you need to do in order to get there. And I promise you, you will get there. I've done it myself. I've done it with so many of my coaching clients before. You have to stop setting those limitations in your head, because you're capable of far more than you think you are. And that's gonna be it for today. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you now have a clear image of what you want to accomplish and what you want your body to look like, and you can absolutely do it. Look at all the other guys, or even look at myself. Like, look at myself as an example. I'll show you a picture of me 5 years ago. I'll show you a picture of me 2 years ago. And then I'll show you a picture of me like last summer, where I was in the best shape of my life. Look at the transition from, you know, getting started in the gym to being super overweight to being in the best shape of my life. I was capable of doing it, and I am no different from you. It took me years of constant effort in order to get there, but I was able to do it, and you can do the same thing. But that's gonna be it now. As I said, I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope you're now able to picture that future version of yourself in your head. And if you need help doing that, you can always reach out to me on Instagram. You can always comment on those YouTube videos, and I will cover stuff that I see in the comments in my next videos as well. Take care, guys, and I will talk to you soon.